few things to follow up from last night's debate. The Prime Minister was pressed on why he hadn't had interactions with Donald Trump, the US President. He said last night he appeared to suggest, well, Mr Trump didn't have a phone. Well, that changed as an explanation today. Anthony Albanese is saying, well, he just doesn't have the number, and that's protocol that he didn't have Joe Biden's personal mobile phone number either. In the rapid fire round at the end, this was also a big issue in the US election campaign, the price of eggs. Well, Peter Dutton appeared to undercook the price, but Anthony Albanese careful in hitting back on this morning, knowing full well that he too could fall on the wrong end of these sort of questions in the future.
About $4.20.
No, you might get half a dozen.
Mr Albanese.
$7 if you can find them.
They're $8.80 for...
Importantly, he doesn't know the price of Australian values right across the board. You know, people, those sort of things can happen. That's the truth.
Well, I've crossed from some strange places, Laura, in the federal election campaign, and this probably one of the more strange ones too. We are in a McDonald's car park, and if you want to know the price of nuggets, it's up there on the wall. Anthony Albanese sadly not joining us for this pit stop, fueling up the bus before we continue what we believe will be a road trip throughout the New South Wales Central Coast and Hunter region today, targeting crucial Labor seats there.
Yeah, interesting, really interesting, Trudy, because, I mean, on the not knowing the price of eggs, Anthony Albanese didn't get it right either. He was below the mark as well. I'd say $8.80 for a dozen eggs is pretty cheap at the moment as well. I've seen $10, $13 more generally. But I would also say that, you know, Anthony Albanese was trying to be a little bit humble there, wasn't he? But he also doesn't want to remind people too much of the first day of the last campaign when he couldn't name what the interest rate was, the current cash rate. So, you know, glass houses.
You can't crow too much, can you? Because you continue to get asked every day until May 3, okay, well, you know the price of eggs, what about the price of milk, what about the price of petrol? Once you go down this path, if you start saying you know the prices and your opponent doesn't, it can turn into a quiz. And I think he's very reluctant to return to what was a pretty bad first day of the last election campaign.
Yeah, I think so as well. Just one final question for you, Trudy, as well, because I had a bit of a tete-a-tete with David Littleproud in the last hour, a friendly one, I might say, about the Fourth Estate, media not actually holding Anthony Albanese to account on a lot of the things that he's saying. Now, he is saying there is a big scare campaign being run by Labor at the moment on a number of fronts. I would say that he is getting away with some of it. But on this question of the cost of the nuclear plan, he's not saying $600 billion anymore, or is he? Because I put this to Jim Chalmers in the Treasurer's debate last week. He seemed to double down on it, but they don't seem to be... They seem to feel like they've been caught out on that number and it's not quite right.
Well, they haven't walked away from it entirely. The Finance Minister, Katie Gallagher, with our colleague Andrew Clennell on Sunday, are saying that that is the figure over time because we've seen cost blowouts in terms of nuclear reactors being built in other countries. Yeah. I think regardless of the merits of it, Laura, they believe that message has cut through. We saw that polling a couple of weeks ago about voters saying that they believe that figure, and so they just continue to hammer that message home. As to whether pollies are being held to account, I mean, I think both sides always start whinging about the other side's treatment on the media bus. I've been on both now. Both leaders are running a very similar strategy of only allowing one question, pointing to people, no shouting, no ability to do follow-ups. It does make it difficult for scrutiny. Interviews like yourself, Laura, it's much easier to continue to press the point because at the moment you can't follow up.
Are both sides doing that? Are both sides doing that? Where they go one question, you can't follow up, and they quickly move around the room, and then everyone's kind of adhering to that rule.
Last week, Laura, he said if you wanted to follow up on the person before you's question, you had to not have your question, and he said you had to pick. Anthony Albanese, similar strategy in terms of pointing out people. Today, I think 5 of us, including myself, didn't get a question. That's how it goes. There's about 40 journalists following the Prime Minister around, so you're not going to get one every day. But both sides are very tightly controlling who gets to ask questions and the follow-ups and the nature of how these things are run.
Yeah, right. So is there any caucusing on, you know, backing each other on follow-up questions, or it's just so hard because everyone's trying to file? Just trying to get a sense of things for our viewers.
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of people, there's a lot of different issues that a lot of people are trying to get the Prime Minister's focus on. You've seen it effectively, I've seen it on Peter Dutton's side when there was a very clear story. The work from home backflip is a big example there, that became a big press pack and it became unruly. But obviously the Dutton camp doesn't like the look of things getting a bit raucous like that. I think Anthony Albanese has successfully, in terms of his perspective, been able to manage the press pack. They were very unhappy in 2022 with how unruly things had got it in terms of the shouting and the chasing from journalists. They've managed to be able to control that a little better this time around. From their perspective, it is hard for us though in terms of getting momentum and being able to ask follow-up questions.
Yeah, really good insight, Trudy. Thanks so much for your work. Enjoyed the nuggets. We'll see you soon.